Good morning. Just wanted to really particularly look at Psalm 4 today. Um, First of all, happy December. It's December 1st, so that's awesome. Welcome to December, to maybe colder weather. Um, so God has led me to Samuel today, which was my Old Testament random verse. And it's just about Saul and the Witch of Endor, or Dave, yeah, Saul and the Witch of Endor, which can't really find a connection from there necessarily this morning. But um, primarily, like I said, we'll relate a few things to Psalm 4, and particularly at the second part of Psalm 4. And let me just read it for you because it's just so beautiful. Um, I guess I'll start with verse 4, even though it won't be something I talk about necessarily, but it says, "In your anger, do not sin. When you are on your beds, search your hearts and be silent." And then verse 5, "Offer right sacrifices and trust in the Lord." And verse 6 and on is where I did my reading today. "Many are asking, who can show us any good? Let the light of your face shine upon us, O Lord." So even that verse right there, the first half, Matthew Henry kind of, talks about how people are just looking at the outside of things, just looking at what the world maybe even sees as good. And they might just say, there's nothing good to really claim. There's nothing really good to thank God for. It's just negativity, or just seeing all the things that are frustrating or destructive, or people want to say going to hell in a handbasket, that are just negative. And that is the way the world, if sometimes you're just looking at the outside of things and it seems like things aren't going your way, might say, who can show us any good? And then David says, "Let the light of your face shine upon us, O Lord." And that kind of makes you think of the blessing or the promise that God had given to his people. "The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you." Um, and maybe that's what David was remembering as he's writing this. And it made me remember on Sunday when my pastor talked about this verse, and it kind of just will probably not leave me. Had some people tearing up, but he said, if you want to think about what this blessing really is about, he said, put yourself in the shoes of, say, a middle schooler, and you really like this boy and you think he's super cute, you have a crush on him, and you're sitting at a table in the lunchroom and you look over, where he's sitting, and he's looking at you and he's smiling, and he has this look of like he really likes you, like he's pleased to see your face, he's excited to see your face, and how that warms your heart. And this is just on a human level, but if we think of having that love for Jesus more than anyone or anything else, and imagining him looking upon us with his favor, that I've talked about before, kind of the idea we're his favorite. What? And it's kind of, weird, because obviously if more than one person is a favorite, but it's okay. I think God can handle that he'd want us to believe that he's just favored. We're favored, that he has favored. Maybe you haven't felt favored. Maybe you feel in your life like you were the one not favored. Maybe you feel left out. Maybe you feel like the mess up. And here David is just saying, God, let us remember that your face shines on us. You have filled my heart with greater joy. So that is an interesting phrase, isn't it? Greater joy. Earlier in the psalm, it talks about people who are looking after false gods, and that the Lord has set apart the godly. There's just a different way of looking at life. And I think that's what David's sort of saying here is, yeah, it's different. The joy that I have might be different. He, right before this in Psalm 3, was running away from his son. And his son was revolting against his kingship and trying to take over being king. And he had to deal with that jealousy and that deception and rejection, and desertion and just his own son rebelling and denying him, and I'm trying to think of the word, but just going against him. And yet, and right after this, Psalm 4, David is singing music to God, saying, "You give me greater joy." And if we could really think about that there's a lot of things maybe like the world is just saying, yeah, but I don't have this, and yeah, but this is happening, and yeah, a lot of things can try to steal our joy, and it's easy to just get to looking at all the ways we wish our lives were, or people were, or things were. And David is like, when I have my focus on you, I have such great joy. That's what the next part of that verse says. I have greater joy than when their grain and new wine abound. So you might think, man, you have a great meal in front of you and you're drinking and you think, wow, I've got so many good things, or you at least are in a world in your head where you numb out problems or whatever. And David is like, it's so much better to have real joy that God is giving me in the real world than just all the stuff that can come and go that's insecure of the things of this world that you can see with your senses. And that makes me think of a quote that Matthew Henry said about this, about when we're just looking at the things short-sighted, we're not going to have the same look with the eye of faith, and you'll see further than with the eye of your senses. So at the moment you might feel with your senses something you actually can touch or see and enjoy, but that is fleeting. And the Bible says that everything you can see or that sense is temporary, but it's the things that you can't see that really last. And those are the things we find real comfort in, because they can't be taken away. Otherwise, we may always be insecure. And so part of this psalm is about being able to rest. Let it all into God's hands and go to sleep. And so that is God's wish for us, that we can lie down in safety. And that's part of this psalm as well. That psalm, again, chapter 4, and a couple different places, I believe. Oh yeah, in chapter 3, he says, verse 5, I lie down and sleep. I wake again because the Lord sustains me. And then chapter 4, verse 8, I will lie down and sleep in peace. For you alone, O Lord, make me dwell in safety. Just realizing that the only way to really find peace, and we use that phrase rest in peace to think of after you die, but really even right now, we can be resting in peace. We can have, yes, we're active and we have goals and we have things we do, but we lay that all down and still can rest, knowing God's directing us and loving us in spite of and not because of anything we do. There's so many good quotes from this section, but part of that resting in peace is having the joy and safety as we just commit all our affairs to God and leave the issues with Him. Another phrase he used is that we have almost contempt of the world and its pleasures. That may mean like it has nothing for us really, when we have the real joy, because all the rest of it is insufficient to make us happy. And as we seek God's favor first, as the Bible says, seek first the kingdom of God, everything else comes to us. Commit ourselves and all our affairs to the guidance and custody of the divine providence. So whatever it is, we might say, Father, all in thy hands, faith, that I put it all in your hands and find it safe there and trusted there, and don't have worries then. Be satisfied that all will work for the good as we live in the love of God. That's peace, that God's got us, God's got this. And then the devotion for today was from a psalm as well, but it talked about summer and winter both come from God. I thought that's cool. We're dealing with December, can be a cold month. And I remembered in 1 Corinthians, which is my reading in a year, chapter 10, says this: the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. just think about that. Pastor talked about that every good gift comes from above. The earth is the Lord's. Like, it's funny that the people who are wicked are like, where's anything good? Where's anything good? And you just look and see all the things in the earth that God has given us that is beautiful and wonderful. It's a difference of focus. And so winter is going to have times of complaining and cold and snow and stuff, and it'd be easy to think, well, where's my blessing in this? So the devotion says, and the frost talks about winter, kind of the frost kills noxious insects, puts a bound to raging diseases, so keeps them in check, breaks up clods, and sweetens soil. So I'm not sure what happens with frost cover, with the soil, but it's what it needs. It needs that rest. It needs to be covered. So good results follow a winter of affliction. I thought that was cool. So whatever season of life we're going through, God's going to use it. And then finally it says, wrap ourselves up in the warm garments of God's promises and go forth in the labor that befits the season. Think of that, All right, so it's winter. Well, then bundle up. And that's what they say. Don't figure, well, I can't enjoy myself because it's winter. Bundle up. Get ready for it. Be suited for it. Be strong in God. And then do whatever this God has you do in the season. So again, we can get frustrated and say, what good can I do? And God says, I got something for you. It may not be what you're thinking you want to do. It may not be, something that is what you would have chosen. But God has a season, and He says, go do what I have planned for you in this season. Just good stuff. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a great day.